Assalamu alaikum, and a very good evening to you all. And welcome to Startup Grind. My name is Hisan, and I will be your host today. So guys, what is Startup Grind? It has the word startup. So it's something about startup, isn't it? Startup Grind is actually the largest independent community that nurtures startup community through organizing series of different events around the globe, featuring local founders, investors, educators, who share their journey and the lessons they have learned on their road of building successful companies. Today, we are kickstarting the first chapter of Startup Grind in Maldives together with SparkHub, a team of young, brilliant Maldivians who work tirelessly to foster startup communities in Maldives. As you may be aware, Dhiraagu, as a responsible organization, we give a lot of importance to help startups in Maldives under our CSR program for empowering youth. Today here with us is our CEO and MD, Eedham Rasheed. I would like to invite Mr. Eedham Rasheed on stage to share a few words.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Very good afternoon to all of you. I'm very delighted to, together with SparkHub, to be introducing and to be having the first series of the Startup Grind event in the Maldives in our DHO Dhiraagu head office today. And I would like to extend to you, all of your young future and young entrepreneurs, a very, very warm welcome to Dhiraagu. Thank you very much for joining us. We in Dhiraagu, we are very, very excited always to be associated and supporting these startups. As you know, I think it will not be news to you that whenever there is an opportunity for us to participate and support a startup activity or entrepreneurship activity, we take part in those activities, and that is because we strongly believe that there is a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of potential in the Maldives, and there are a lot of young entrepreneurs who are looking for that opportunity to develop and develop themselves, develop their businesses, and bring their ideas into business plans and make them a reality. And we can't be, this is one of the things personally I enjoy doing, as well as from Dhiraagu, from a CSR program point of view, one of the key focus areas of our CSR program as well. So first of all, thank you very much, all of you, for coming, because without you, it won't be much of a startup grind, startup here, and therefore you make it possible. But more importantly, I would like to extend a very warm welcome and thank to Mr. Eedham Rasheed, who is here to share his knowledge as a young entrepreneur, young startup entrepreneur who is on the road to great success. He's already launched the teaching tube. The Hologo is another application that is coming up, which already has quite a widespread worldwide audience, and a lot of people across the world are using it on its beta test. So very, very successful person. I'm sure he will have very, very good stories on his journey to talk to us, to share with us. And I'm sure you are here mainly because you want to learn from Eedham's experience as well. So thank you very much, Eedham, for taking time to be with us. I would also like to extend a very warm welcome and thank to Haris, who is the co-founder of SparkHub, which is one of the leading organizations or institutions in the Maldives, a very, very young entrepreneur who is started this activity to help other young entrepreneurs to come into business. I mean, I think that is very noble of him to be actually to bring in that kind of knowledge and experience, because today's world, I think knowledge is no longer something you need to keep it only to yourself. I think in today's world, when you share knowledge, we all believe that we actually expand knowledge, we bring more knowledge, and it adds to the creativity and the development of a place. So knowledge is very, very important, and I think Haris has taken this initiative. We have already collaborated with him on the Angel Hack event. And I think through that experience, I learned that he and his team has a very, very high level of commitment to bring this kind of knowledge to the rest of the youth entrepreneurs who want to be involved in startup activities or who want to start a business, or more importantly, to bring their ideas into real businesses. So thank you, Haris, for your kind collaboration with Dhiraagu. We are very, very delighted to be participating with you and supporting you guys as well in your journey as to make SparkHub a successful organization in the Maldives. So once again, I don't want to take too much of your time. I think you are all more interested to hear what Eedham has to say rather than what I have to say. But once again, thanks for coming, and I hope you all enjoy the evening as well. Thank you very much.
I'd like to request our CEO and MD, Mr. Eedham Rasheed, CEO and founder of Hologo, and our chapter director for Startup Grind in Maldives, Mr. Haris, for a photo moment. Thank you. Next, we'll be moving on to the fireside chat with the chapter director and the moderator, Mr. Haris, and CEO and founder of Hologo, Eedham Rasheed. I'll hand over to Haris.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming here on a Friday. My name is Ali Haris. I am the chapter director for Startup Grind Male. So since this is the first Startup Grind in Male, let me briefly go through what Startup Grind is. So as Hisan has already mentioned, Startup Grind is the largest startup community in the world that connects over 1.5 million entrepreneurs in more than 450 cities. Startup Grind nurtures startup ecosystem in more than 120 countries through events like this, media, and partnership with organizations like Google for Startups. And in here, for our local chapter, we are doing this in partnership with Dhiraagu. We are very excited to have them. And our goal is, the most important thing for our global community is events like this where we feature local founders, innovators, educators, and investors to share their journey while building a great company. So today, we have someone who has a very interesting story to share, someone who has been in the education sector and who has identified the power of technology, and he is on a quest to change the way students learn. So I would like to invite Mr. Eedham Rasheed, founder and CEO of Hologo. Just give me 1 second.
I think you forgot the questions.
So sorry about that. Thank you so much, Eedham, for joining us. Actually,
can you hear me well?
Yeah, can everybody hear him?
Yeah. Can you hear me well? Yeah.
So, to be honest, it's a bit selfish of me to even bring you here because I also wanted to learn a lot from you. I'll be honest. So before we get into all the fun stuff of Hologo, teaching tube, or everything else you are doing, let's go back in some time, right?
Okay.
Let's talk about your background, right? Where did you grow up? Where did you go school? And how were you back in the days?
So I was born in the Maldives, I did my education up to grade 7 in Male, Ahmadiyya Iskandar and Majidiya school for 2 years. And then I went to Sri Lanka to do my O-levels, did a diploma in New Zealand, and then I did my degree in Geneva.
Right.
But I didn't finish my degree there, so I was more
So,
interested in enjoying.
and
But I made a lot of good friends during my tenure in university in Geneva, who've been helping me since then. And I think the biggest takeaway from my experience there would have been the friends that I made and people that I've come across. And after that, I decided to go and work in Malaysia. And there I did real estate investment and brokerage for about from 2006 to 2010. And then in 2010, I came back and joined my family business here in the Maldives.
right.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about your family business as well, since there are people in the audience who might not be familiar?
My father has been a businessman for quite some time, and he's been involved in a few industries. And the group that he's founded is called Islanders Group of Companies. And there we have a couple of businesses. One is real estate development. Then we have an education arm where we brought Billabong High International School, Kangaroo Kids International School to the Maldives. And that's one of the companies that we are quite invested in, both my brother and myself. And then we have an industrial arm that's to do with timber trading and water pump trading.
Right. So multiple industries, yeah? So the question I have for you is, since you have mentioned a lot of things, you have your family business is involved in real estate, and there's the educational arm, and there are a couple of other things as well, right? But the certain thing we are here to talk about today is Hologo, right? Which is a technological company or a tech startup. So how did you go into tech, right? When you were studying, did you study anything related to tech, or how did the shift come? Why technology? Why not anything else?
Well, when we were thinking about expanding the education business in the Maldives, we were quite passionate about the education company that we've developed that's called Islanders Education. And we began by building schools at a high fee. That's Billabong and Kangaroo Kids. But we did not want to stop there. We wanted to be able to come up with a product or a solution where every single Maldivians could afford and get benefit from. So then we thought we'll cut costs and take Kangaroo Kids schools across the islands, and we tested it out with a school in Addu. We tested it out with a school in Formulak, and then we eventually ended up developing our own preschool curriculum that we called IGRA. And we thought parents all across the Maldives in various islands could afford something, to at least enough to sustain these schools, but that was not the reality. So, but during this work, we've identified that there was a very, very big problem because Maldives has 212 schools, and more than half of them have less than 20 students a grade. So that means the Ministry of Education would have had to put chemistry teacher, physics teacher, business studies teacher, computer science teacher. Every single island would have had to have a teacher, qualified teacher, which was not the case. So a lot of the islands were equipped with one teacher who might be teaching English and science at the same time, business and mathematics at the same time. This was not their specialty. But everybody had connectivity, everybody had internet, everybody had a smartphone, everybody had access to computers. So we thought it would be wise and it might be something worthwhile trying to develop an online solution to give education to students across all of the islands in the Maldives. That's when we began work with teaching tube.
Yeah. So yeah, early 2017, right? If I remember correctly.
No, we began working on that in 2012.
I mean, it was launched in early 2017,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Along with Dhiraagu, if I remember correctly.
Yes, we partnered with Dhiraagu for
Yes,
that.
so it's very interesting because I think that's the first time I met you as well.
Yes,
You were
helped
working
me develop the mobile app.
Right. So the first thing which came to my mind was because you are trying to develop an online platform with educational content, right? So the initial thought I had was, I mean, there are so many platforms out there, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure so many people would have asked you this question. There's Khan Academy. There's so many online platforms out there, right? So why did you think you can create something on your own? I mean, why did you decide to create something on your own?
Well, there was Khan Academy. There was solutions like RoboMate, Byju's, but there was nothing specific to the Cambridge IGCSE curriculum that was being taught in Maldives. And there might be various, I mean, the internet is full of information, but it was not sorted and customized to the Cambridge IGCSE system. And I've hunted around to have a look and see if there were any solutions. There was a couple of solutions that were customized, but those were really, really expensive. And that's when I thought that we'll work out, we'll gather a team of qualified teachers. So I convinced an author of a very renowned author who've spent a lot of years in Maldives teaching as well, and then a very good mathematics teacher, and started off with the science and math subjects first. And then we spent together 2 years to develop content together with them. And when we were developing content, we looked at the other platforms. And then when I was going through that, along with a few students, their attention span just went when they were looking at the videos. And what we found out was most of the videos were developed with just a singular PowerPoint slide, and then on top of the PowerPoint slide, there'll just be narration. So all of the videos ended up becoming very, very sleepy, you know?
Yeah.
And that's when we decided we will stick to two methods. We'll stick to the traditional old-fashioned blackboard, Khan Academy style, chalk and talk type of videos. And then we got a team of graphics designers and 3D artists to come on board and develop 3D models to teach science subjects. And that's how we sort of differentiated ourselves.
Right.
And then we developed
so that's where you found out the problem, right? Because there are so many platforms out there online, but the content they have is not tailored to our market, right?
Yeah.
Not to here. So it doesn't give the best output, right?
Yeah.
So that's where you identify the problem, and after 2 or 3 years of developing the content, you finally launched a platform called Teaching Tube, which was available both on online and a website as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So finally, when you launched the website, what was the reaction? I mean, did you get the outcome you were expecting? What were the challenges you faced? I mean,
I thought when I launched the website that I'd be selling. It was at the end of the day a business as well. It was a social, It was social entrepreneurship, perhaps. That might be the best term for it. So I thought that in Male, parents were paying kids to get tutored 3,500 rupiah per month, and tuition teachers would come 3 times a week, and then they'd be getting their private tutoring. And in the islands, parents were paying 350 rupiah upwards. So we are talking about 3,500 rupiah annually that parents would spend on a subject. So I wanted to give them the best solution from top teachers for less than 50% of that price.
What they're paying right now.
So I priced each subject for $99. And the outcome that I faced was none of them knew, or none of them were familiar with online learning, number one. Number two, a lot of them were, they were quite unfamiliar to paying for services like this online. That was the story of Maldives.
Yeah.
And number three, we could not figure out how we will work with the Ministry of Education here also, since it was completely new. And that way we didn't know how to approach the schools, enter into the schools, and go and promote a product that is $99. And lastly, we did not know what the reactions from the tuition teachers who were earning a lot would be if we came up with a solution. Perhaps maybe that may replace sort of their
jobs.
So these were the problems that we faced when we launched. So that's
So a couple of things I noticed. I mean, even for any startups, people who are doing startups over here, one thing is something we say out loud very proudly is that Maldives is a very high-tech country, which is true. We have the most highest internet penetration rate in the Asia. But sometimes, even though everybody owns a smartphone, when we do actually start a business based on that, they don't really get the most out of it, right? I mean,
it's changing.
It's changing now, but it's not as much as we are expecting. So the point here being is, we could be wrong, right? We could have so much higher expectation, and so at the end of the day, it could be completely other way around, right? And the other one you mentioned as well is, I think that a conversation we are seeing globally, which is one is artificial intelligence replacing human jobs. I'm sort of remotely closer to that. Now you are coming up with an online tuition teacher which would replace the traditional tuition teacher, right? And even
that was not our intention.
But sort of it leads to it, right?
That was the public perception,
True. Even when Airbnb came out, their goal wasn't, to change the whole these hotels, right? But the way the world is changing, the world is transforming, the people millennials do prefer Airbnbs rather than hotels, right? So somewhat like that. It might not be their perception, but we don't really know how the world is changing, right? So, and then once Teaching Tube was launched, after a while, I saw something called Hologo, right? And my first reaction was, what is he up to now? Just a few months ago, he had something called Teaching Tube. What is this guy up to now? So could you tell me, obviously you had a lot of challenges with Teaching Tube. I think some of the other challenges I think you may have faced is the connectivity also could be somewhat a challenge. So how did that shift happen here? Obviously, people weren't willing to pay $99, or they didn't know how to pay $99 per year. I think the payment method you had was PayPal, which also, I think you set up a bank account somewhere else because we don't receive paper money to this country, right? So you found a hack. You had a bank account somewhere else which received the money from PayPal, right? So many challenges. People didn't know how to pay and so many things. So how did it lead to Hologo? What are we missing from there?
So number one, we put in a lot of work, right? So I'm talking about 3 years of work, developing content, developing website. We did the website twice because we figured out the first website we did was in the wrong language that
Just
we
to be clear, it's not my problem.
You came in the right time, don't worry. And after that, we thought, okay, the conversions are very slow, So I thought, okay, let's forget about the payment. We put in a function where everybody can get a free trial for 7 days. And after that, we thought we'll test that method out. And then we opened up the platform to be tested for free.
To the whole world, right?
To the whole. It's a .com, so anybody can see.
Right.
And then what we started doing was anybody who was registering, we reached out to them via mobile and through email. And if it was helpful for them, we wanted to collect data on how useful it became to them. So we were manually giving them free enrollments. And that was for the Maldives. And eventually, when we started doing that, that was on late May, June 2017. From that point until August, and when August ended and September began, we had gone from 100 enrollments to 41,000 enrollments.
Is it local or both international?
Most 95% of them came from abroad, and from 63 countries, people were actively engaging within the website. And that's when we realized that, okay, now we started looking at, okay, we hosted the videos on Vimeo, so we got a lot of data on what sort of videos people are watching. And we came to the realization that almost the top 100 videos that we had out of a library of 2,000 videos were lessons that had 3D objects in it. And most of them were biology and physics lessons. And then we thought we had developed all the 3D models, and we wanted to test if we can take it up a notch further.
Right. So basically, based on data, you know that people were going for lessons with 3D object, right?
No, they will open Chalk and Talk also, but they never finish it.
Right.
But so if it was a 3D lesson, they always finish it.
They found that interesting, right?
And they replay it as well.
Right.
You know?
And based on the conversation we had the other day, and if I remember correctly, this was even before the augmented reality thing became the conversation, right? AR kit wasn't launched, and this was some time before that, right? So what did you do next? So you know that now you have people are watching in 3D object. What was your next step? I mean,
so when I launched TeachingTube, the one thing that I really wanted to do was be able to holographically have teachers teaching across all islands, you know. And that was something that I really wanted to do. I knew the technology was not there, but that's something that I thought would be a game changer. So then AR Kit, the story of AR Kit began to come up during August and September 24th was when AR Kit was actually launched by Apple. And they released information about that a month earlier. So then the technology team that we had in-house, led by Shamhil, and all of the 3D designers, the educators, we got together and we thought we'll create a demo 3D AR application. And we took the most popular lesson that was there on TeachingTube, which is the lesson to do with the human heart. So we took that 3D model. We took a couple of other 3D models, geography, we took the model of the Earth, and we selected 5. And we made a AR application, and it was just sitting in the office, but luck played a role, and a gentleman named Chauhan, who is an Apple Distinguished Educator, and he actually has one of the 2 licenses to train Apple schools and Apple educators in the UK. So he came to the Maldives to give a teacher training seminar that was organized by Billabong School. And while he was there, I thought maybe it would be a good idea to show him, but I'm not sure whether I'd really show him because it's not complete. Maybe I thought UK guys would have much more advanced stuff than us. But the moment I showed that to him, I knew from his face that he's never seen something like this before, you know. And then he started getting really excited, and he was asking us more questions about what we were planning on doing with this. And we told him, yeah, we are going to develop thousands of these, you know. And then he's like, can you all do it, you know? And we knew we can do it. And he said, okay, can you come to the UK and present this to all the Apple Distinguished Schools. Apple Distinguished Schools are schools that have an iPad for every kid. So that's how you get the label, and all the teachers are certified by Apple. So he's hosted a seminar of training on how to use technologies that are available on iPads to all of the ADS schools in UK. And we got 30 minutes to showcase what we have developed. And at that time, it was crashing, and you know how it is.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, we'll really get something that works together. And we flew to UK.
All right.
And it was a big function. All the schools were there. Chauhan was giving presentations on various applications that they use. There were really cool stuff like, they had education to do with drones and all this stuff. And people were quite engaged. And it was our turn, quite at around 3 o'clock towards the end. And the moment we demoed it, we played it on an Apple TV. The moment we played it, that's when I knew that nobody there has even seen something like this,
And just to be clear, we are not talking about something very revolutionary here, right? You just saw some technology which was just released, and you experiment on it, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And like you said,
it was available to everybody.
It was available to everybody. Everybody had the same opportunity, and then like you said, it was crashing, not even working properly. But why did you go? I mean, I think a lot of people would feel
because he invited, and it was an opportunity to meet all the Apple distinguished schools.
But your application is not just finished; it's crashing, and you are going to UK to
Luckily, it didn't crash in the presentation.
So luck is there. But still, the reason why I'm asking this is because we have this sense of insecurity in us, right? The feeling of not being good enough, that our people might laugh at us, our ideas might be stupid. So. I think you are not somebody who's coming from a technological background as well, right?
Yeah.
But still, why did you go all the way? I mean, didn't you even think twice that this might fail?
Yeah, the thought of a little Indian man going and doing an AR presentation to all the Apple distinguished schools, it was a little scary. I had not given a presentation like that before, but I had my brother with me. I had Shamil, who was our CTO, with me. So in case it crashed also, he was there with me, so I didn't have to call. So three of us went. And luckily it didn't crash. But to our luck, the head of Apple Education for UK, Ireland and Wales was sitting there. We did not even know. And that was 2 days after Apple launched ARKit.
Right.
And the moment we finished, him and another guy who was in charge of Asia and Middle East, they came over and they started inquiring about us. And that's when we really realized, okay, we have the capacity to do this. We need to sort of figure out how we will present the application. We need to figure out, what more we can put in that may perhaps make us stand out from the rest. There were 2 other applications, but those are very general. You might know Jigspace.
Yes.
So they have this is an AR application where you just see models.
All right.
But then we thought we will show the models. We will put audio on top of the models where a teacher will talk about whatever concept that we were showing in AR. Does everybody know what AR is, by the way? Show of hands, maybe.
So friends who have heard of AR, or augmented reality, I think.
Okay, for those of you who may not know, right? That's the concept of overlaying digital objects through the camera, right? So we wanted to show digital, like Snapchat, We wanted to show that object. We wanted the ability for the user to get information from teachers talking about that object. And then we also wanted the ability for whoever who is using as an educator to be able to record their own voice and make their own rendition of that object and that lesson. So basically, if I am a biology teacher, I don't download the application, I open up the human lungs, and then I will be able to voice it in my own language, in my own standard of teaching. If I was a primary teacher, I'll talk about it a little bit less. If I was a O-level teacher, I'll talk about it a little bit more. If I was a A-level teacher, a little bit more, and in my own language. So that way, the problem we had with teaching, where teachers were fearing it will become something that will replace them, this will become something that the teachers will use as a tool to do what they do better. So That's the logic we came up with to launch Hologo.
Right.
And to support all of the AR content that we have, we already had a massive library of video lessons that can
Alright.
complement.
So you sort
the-
of pivoted, right? You had a lot of video content, and then since it didn't work out for some reason, you thought of, okay, I have this chunk of data with me, content with me. So how could I use this rather than starting all again, right? And that is something a lot of startups tend to do, because they might go out there and it might not work out, and they are always ready to pivot, right? So something similar you have done, and so you came back, right? Came back, and I think if I remember correctly, the application was launched earlier this year in Middle East at BET conference.
Yeah.
So how did it go? How did it lead there?
So we knew that in Maldives, not every student will have access to iPads, and also iPads and iPhones that were supporting AR kit.
Right.
So that's generation 6S and beyond. So if we were to put a massive effort and launch here, maybe it would be, maybe we might not get the numbers that we desire.
Right.
And also we had at that point developed this relationship with Apple. These guys were regularly emailing us, asking us what's going on. And that's when we thought, okay, closest to where we are, we need to figure out the best education convention that's there. So actually the biggest education convention is called BET, and they have their main summit in January in UK. Then they have their offshoot summits in Middle East, Asia, and then Latin America. And we thought that Middle East would be a good choice because it was in UAE. There the international schooling system is quite strong. They have the spending power, and a lot of the schools from Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, at that time they were not quarreling, I think, can come and see the solution. So we co-sponsored that event.
Right.
And went there, so they gave us a booth, and we were able to give 2 speeches about how to use this technology. So, and we got a good reception.
Yeah. So basically, you found a hack to go into the place and demonstrate, right? You said you became a co-sponsor, and then they will give you a slot, right? So to present you, very very interesting. So so you went to UK in September, right? So you came back. And then we are talking about a time frame of 6 months again, right? So that is where you worked on developing these models further, right?
Yeah.
And then you went back to Middle East. You went to Middle East in April, right? To present in the fair.
Yeah.
So how was the experience there? What did you learn from there?
There were positives and negatives.
Right.
So
Let's start with negatives.
the negatives were, always start with the bad news. The negatives were that we did not have a solution for the web. We did not have a solution for Android. We did not have a solution for older iPads, and we did not even have a payment gateway.
So in other words, you went to one of the largest educational conference
Too early.
too early with just an technology that was released.
A demo app, yeah.
A demo app. You went to a conference where there were thousands of people coming in every day.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with it?
No, but it was good. I made good friends.
All right.
And again, for a lot of people, they have not seen something like this. So everybody was very excited to be friendly with us.
Right.
And so there, the moment we finished our presentation, the former head of Apple Education for Europe, Middle East, Asia, Africa, came and introduced himself, sat down with us for 45 minutes, asking us what we were doing. And he was seated with us, talking, very engaged with us, while people were swarming around him, trying to get a word from him. But he was really, really interested in us and learning more about what we were trying to do. He was advising us what we should do. He was criticizing what we have done.
Just a little curious here. Are the guys at Apple following you, or is this a thing for everybody else as well? Because wherever you go, it turns out to be a guy from Apple
I'm lucky that way, I
tend to be there.
Yeah.
So it's
But
just
I saw his
available
profile.
for
I
us.
saw his profile, and I knew I will talk to him.
Right.
But luckily he
So
because it was iPad, he was naturally interested.
Right. So before you went to the conference, you looked into who else were coming there, and you identified the key potential people
Yeah.
there to network as well,
Yeah.
right? And then luckily for you, he actually reached out
Yeah.
to you, right?
But unlucky for me, I had to let go of a lot of contracts. So
Right.
there they do a lot of business in these seminars. So there was one school group called Raha, International Schools. There was a school group called GEMS. They are actually the biggest education group in the world. And all of them came, and they, their disruption manager, I think he was an Indian gentleman, I forgot his name. He also came in, he asked questions. And then I could not make a deal with them because they did not have the hardware.
Right.
And we did not have solutions for Android. So we potentially let go of hundreds of thousands of dollars of contracts because we were not ready.
Ready for it.
Yeah,
Right.
but we made friends.
Right. So in there, you launched the application Hologo, right? And I saw a lot of people were downloading it, and in fact, I even saw it featured on Apple App Store. How was the experience? Were you guys ready for that? Were you expecting that this will be this massive hit?
So actually, Apple has a big agenda to promote AR.
Right.
My suspicion is that they will launch, now iPhone is dying. Right. Apple is very comfortable at killing their own products. Right. So they killed iPod for iPhone. They are slowly killing the MacBook. You posted a grievance about MacBook recently.
Right.
MacBook to promote iPad.
Right.
So now I think they will release a wearable glass, and they will slowly change the phone to a remote control. So the glass will have, it will be your computer, your TV, your everything.
That's very futuristic, Iron Man kind, but would be great to have.
That's exactly where they are heading. So have you all heard of Magic Leap? Has everybody heard of Magic Leap?
No,
So Magic Leap is also a similar glass that they have launched this year. When they were funded by Google and Alibaba, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, they are valued now at $2 billion. Everybody was so curious about what they were trying to come up with, and they were pressured to release a product. They released their glass this year, but no solutions. So everybody was so disappointed they were so hyped. Okay, $2 billion company, they are going to come up with a hardware. It will be amazing, right? But they released it, and they did not have content on it.
So similar for the AR kit issue.
So Apple is a much smarter company, in my opinion. So what they are doing is they are getting all developers around the world to develop content in augmented reality 3 years in advance. And they are powering that with iPhones. They are increasing the AR technology in the iPhones with AR kit too.
Right.
And they are going to have a massive library of AR applications by the time they launch
their wearable
device.
Right.
So that is why they are really, really eyeing and sort of keeping a close watch on whoever who is developing augmented reality applications. And education is an area where Apple is quite focused in.
Right.
So that's why I believe that they've been close to us, and they've given good suggestions. They've invited us to developer labs.
Right.
And that's the story.
So, could you tell us about how was the experience with this app being featured on App Store? Because this was featured in App Store.
Then because we did not have a pay on gateway. We did not want to make a free application, because I was spending more than $10,000 a month on people who were developing the application, going and traveling and all these things. And then when we launched the application, 2 weeks after we launched the application, we started getting a lot of downloads one night at around 10:30. And then when we did not understand why we were getting so many downloads, and we were getting, at that particular day, we got 3,000 downloads in 24 hours. And we were getting so many hits, we had dedicated verification service that sort of doubled the numbers. And send the same verification number of 2 people because it was oversubscribed.
Yeah.
So that was a bug there. People were getting annoyed and commenting also. And that's when we figured out that Apple had listed this app at number 173 from all the education apps in the world.
Right.
So that's around 700,000, 800,000 apps. Then they have an algorithm where the more downloads you get, the more ranking that you get, you know. So then we were just refreshing and checking. Every single hour we kept going up and up and up and up and up, and we ended up going to number 37 in the whole world.
And while you are having this issue, right? And
Yeah.
because I think just to make it clear, the issue he was having was when you register a number, you receive an OTP, right?
Yeah.
And then since you are not ready for this much of traffic to come to your app, the same number was being sent to 2 different people, right? So you
400 people got issues, yeah.
a lot of people got the same code. So while you are having this issue, the app can going up on the
Yeah. And we had demo applications, so they would just download and only see the demo part.
Right.
We did not have the payment at that time. So I had to make a very painful decision to reach out to the Apple guys and tell them, please take it down.
And by then, what was the ranking?
37.
37. So from 170 to it went to 37, and then you have to make this decision where to call Apple and please take my application. So how did you feel about that?
I felt like it was the right thing to do.
You felt like
Yeah, because if we were at 37, a lot of people would have downloaded it, and we would have not. They would not have got the experience that we have intended them to have, because it was not fully ready.
Right.
And they would have gotten bored of the application.
Yes.
And they would have just deleted it.
Right. And they will never install it again, right?
Yeah, and then when somebody tells them about it later, they'll be like, yeah, I had a bad experience.
Yeah, and this is something I have been reading a lot about, because the customer, retaining the customer is always cheaper than acquiring new customers, right? So I think you're also concerned more about that, right?
Yes.
Because once if they have a bad experience, they are never going to install it again, right? And then they're going to be stick. So I think it's very smart and brave of you to actually do and take it down. So what did you do next? So
then we started studying the behavior of people who were using it.
Right. By then, how many users did you have?
At that point, we had 50,000.
50,000, right.
Now we have 210.
210,000 from all, right.
On Hologo, yeah.
Hologo, yeah. So what was the next step? I mean,
next what we did was we started checking the behavior. So we found out that people who download it, they go through the entire application for 1-2 weeks, and then users just stop using
this. Yeah.
And then a very few people actually use it so that's when I realized that there were a lot of curious people downloading it, and there were people who are really heavily using it.
Right.
So then we started to get data of email addresses of people who were using it. So we have an active user base of around 14,000 people who are actively engaged in it at the moment, with close to 100 experiences. So we were using that data to expand the augmented reality experience library to 500 experiences that we will release in April next year.
Right.
And we wanted to work on how we get more engagement, and that's when we started working on multiplayer augmented reality experience. So that means you and I can take our phones and play with the same AR experience.
Right. And we are talking about a very new area here, right? Augmented reality, and I think even finding talent for augmented reality is very difficult to even develop and work on it. So how did you get the support for, did you get any support from Apple or?
Yes.
So
yes, they took us for an Apple developer lab in UK.
Right.
And
so just one morning they called you and just invited you.
I got an email asking if you would like to join, and then we went there.
Right.
And they were quite helpful.
And you didn't reach out to them, right? They just reached out to you and invited you, right?
Yeah.
Right. Right. So where do you see Hologo now? I mean, you
So
have
right now we know exactly what we have to do.
right,
So right now we know that we, we, we know what subjects to feature. We know how people have been using it. The people have been using it in ways that we did not even intend. For an example, we had one category that we call journeys. So there the phone opens, the camera opens, there's a window, and through the window you physically go through with the phone, and then you go into a VR experience. So that was something that we thought, okay, we'll just give as a fun tool,
right, right,
But then people who were using it started reaching back to us and saying that before, kids who were given tasks for descriptive writing, right? They'll be given a paragraph to read and a picture and say, okay, you write a very creative essay around this, go for descriptive writing.
right,
But they'll write 1, 2, 3 paragraphs. But some schools that are using this now send students on virtual journeys to the Great Wall of China. And then when they come back, the kids are writing full pages,
Right,
of
right.
descriptive writing. So we did not intend that function to teach English. We did not even anticipate we'll develop something for English. But the most amount of use is now coming through this application for language development.
Right.
So for that, we are now partnering with various UN missions across the world and taking 360 videos of key global issues like human rights, peace, sustainability. We will be doing one in Soneva. We will be doing one of village in Maldives, and then we are tying up all of those experience with a massive, story bank. So they'll be able to read their stories in writing that will
Right.
train students in reading. All the 360 journeys will be accompanied with audio, so they'll be able to teach students and make them develop listening skills. And after that, they'll have to write critical thinking skills will be developed because we'll pose questions as well. So
Right, right. Very interesting. And one of the things I see here in the local context is when we are talking about startups or starting up a new business, our ideas are very much limited into this country, right? And I know for a fact that you are doing everything just from here, right? You are dealing customers all over the world, and you are just doing it in a small office right here, right? And we also sometimes tend to have this thinking where if we want something very big, we need to have a very big setup, and we need to have a super big office with really cool bean bags and stuff like that. So by then only we can really build a good business, right? And then
I went to Ismail's office. I could work much better there.
no, the reason why I am saying this is because I have been to your office as well. He does not have any bean bags, I can confirm that. But he is dealing with a lot of people, and then and you started very small as well, right? Teaching Tube was supposed to be here, and then it sort of led to what you are right now, right? So why do you think, I mean, should we limit just our ideas or our startup just to this context? Or and why do you think not? I mean, why do you think do you think we have an advantage over everybody else in the world? The reason I'm asking this is because I saw a very interesting video from Jack Ma in 1999, right? So before Jack Ma started Alibaba, he would go back to China and tell the people that the people in the US are doing this certain thing, right? And then they would not even believe him, right? And he will say that if the people in America is doing this, why can't we? Because we are the same people, and we actually do work twice as Americans, right? And if the fact that they could do it there means we could do it as well, right? So I'm sort of relating this to the local context. Yeah, do you think we could even maybe build an Alibaba?
Yes.
Why so? Why do you think so?
Because number one, to learn how, I think the main thing is figuring out a big problem.
Right.
And if the problem that you figured out, if it's a global problem,
Right.
and everybody is online, and if your solution helps them,
Right.
they would use it, right?
Yeah, but the scenario here is right. Even from the conversation I had with you earlier, you have so much plan to expand it to other markets as well, right? Even for example, you are thinking of going to the bigger markets than Middle East, right? So aren't you afraid that there are bigger companies, giant out there, that they could maybe build an AR app in just 1 week, right? Whereas they could replace just your content in 1 week's work. I mean, they have so much access to the resources, everything they do have. So why do you still keep going? I mean, for example, let's say you went to US, right? And Microsoft Education came up with their own AR app, right? Do you think you have an advantage over there? Or why are you trying to do that?
I'm not afraid of that.
Why not?
Reason is, the reason is first we started selling a subject for $99. Now we've dropped the entire subscription for $20 per year.
Right.
So when they buy our subscription, they'll buy it for $20 and they get TeachInTube and Hologo both.
Yeah.
And why I'm not afraid is $20 is enough for somebody to have Microsoft and have Hologo at the same time.
Right, right. So you don't necessarily
I
see
don't
them
think,
as an competition?
I don't think that if it's priced at this point, they'll be like, no, I don't have to buy this. I'll only stick with mine. They'll be able to have both.
And what do you think could be your unique selling point? I mean, why would anybody use Hologo?
We will be, what we are working on at this moment is integrating multiple languages.
Right, right.
The same heart model will have Arabic narrations over it that we are customizing together with the Tatvir Education Technology Corporation of Saudi Arabia,
right,
where they will have it in their own context. We are now working with Indian educators to customize it for CBSE, ICSE. Yeah. We are doing the same work with a Korean and Chinese school in Singapore that will have Mandarin, Korean, and Chinese. So the goal here is have something highly relevant to every single market, and at the same time have a training in place that will be online, developed by Chauhan, that will teach teachers how to use this technology in the classroom.
Right.
So at the moment, I'm not quite worried about other people coming. It's an uncrowded space yet at the moment, but I'm sure it will not be the case.
True, true.
So we will try to do our best.
Right. I can see that you genuinely believe in your idea and your business, right? And what you have talked about is fantastic over here. It's super difficult to run a startup. There are so many people criticizing you for what you're doing, because usually when you are doing, by definition, startup is something very risky, right? You are doing something different from everything available in the market, right? So it's not same as starting just a business. Startup is where you take a risky area and try out something new, right? So when you are trying something out new, people usually doesn't share the same vision as you, right? So then they don't really get it, right? And when people doesn't get it, they make assumptions, right? So have you had, how do you deal with this kind of experience, right? I mean, I think if you go and tell somebody you are going to come up with things, there's a high chance that you're going to hear that it's never going to work.
There might be two types of criticisms.
Right.
People might criticize what you are trying to do without thinking too much about it. They'll just say, okay, this sucks, or it will not work. The second type would be people who would have given it some thought and they'll find a fault and this is why you will not work.
Right.
So they've cared enough to give a compliment, and they've cared enough to share something that you can actually work on and to improve in your next update or next phase of development.
Right.
So I think that's very important, So I've had conversations with a lot of people now across, I've attended some seminars, had conversations with the correct people, So let the correct people criticize. And, I do not want to get a criticism from a wholesaler on my education app.
Right.
Okay, I would want to get their criticism if they had a child who was using it, but somebody who is completely not related to it will not know how to properly criticize what we are doing. But I'd love to get as much criticism as possible from people who know in this space, and that we can always change, right?
Yeah. So
if we believe that's the right thing to do.
So in short, just ignore everybody who haven't really given a thought to this, because we'll always skip, because it's the easiest way, right? Just to say, it's never gonna work. So, and again, I wanted to relate this to a local context again. When we are talking about startups and, starting up a new business or small business, I have come to notice that a lot of people are very, very, very worried about their ideas being stolen, right? They keep their ideas in their pocket and then they never share it, right? And you are here telling us about your journey and what you are going to do next. And even you were very comfortable with sharing a very big idea with me the other day. So I will not share it because I honestly don't know how you feel about this idea sharing thing. So
I'm okay.
so, and so we have this insecurity where the minute we share our idea, it might be stolen and someone else might go and do it. So what do you think about that? And what would you tell to the people who are going to start up then? Should they share or should
So
they?
maybe if you have a very good idea, it might not be the best thing to do to share it with somebody who will immediately steal it and go do something, right?
Right.
And do it in a way that maybe not the way that you envision to do it. Maybe they might spoil the idea also, right?
Yeah.
So, but what I'm trying to say is having an idea and executing the idea is very two different. So you can share your ideas with a lot of people, and let's say they execute it. You still have the chance to execute it better, right?
Right. So in short, if you genuinely believe in your idea, you don't have to worry about it, right? Because
Yeah.
you know for a fact that the other person can't really execute as. In short, so
Something that I think a lot of people underestimate is, okay, you have a great idea, but really the work that goes into really making something brilliant is you can't, it's overwhelming sometimes, because, okay, Hologo, education app for AR, teaching tube, but the detail that we have really gone into, we are looking at syllabuses and curriculums from all over the world,
right.
We are looking at how each curriculum is different from the next.
Right.
We are looking at how each and every single model, I'm talking about 567 models today that we are working on. Each and every single model will have different labels, different narrations, different languages, and how that will be presented will have to differ from each filter. So let's say a student who will log in from India will have a separate set. Somebody who will log in from Europe will have a separate set. And it has to be relevant to them.
Right.
And that's the work that you'll have. If you put in that work, you will only have to be afraid of somebody who will actually put in that amount of effort. Right?
So in short, the idea stealer, if I may, would not put the amount of
you
work
shouldn't
that
be afraid of an idea stealer. You
Yeah.
should be afraid of the person who will actually execute
because
it better than you.
the fact that the person who stole the idea didn't have the idea means he can't really do it right, because he doesn't really know how to execute. So we're very, very impressed to hear that, because this is not something we tend to hear a lot here. And so from the stories you have told me, I think there's this saying, your network is your net worth, right? So from the stories you have told us here, I can actually see that you have made a lot of contacts, right? And those contacts are actually driving sort of your business, right? So what would you say is most important, is it the network or the money?
Go out and make friends.
Go out and make friends. So don't worry about the money, make contacts, and then you will figure out the way, right?
Yeah, capital is also a challenge, right? Capital is always a challenge.
Of course. But if you have capital and if you don't have the right network, you are never going to make it, right? So, because this is something we tend to hear as well, because he did it because he had the money, right? You could have so much money in the world and still not being able to do something because you don't know or you don't have the right network to do it, right?
In Geneva, I had a very good friend. He was a very rich guy, but he didn't have a girlfriend. So that's a problem. You don't have everything with money.
The guy without the money had the girlfriend. So, so I think I have pretty much covered the most question I wanted to ask you. And now, what would you say to the people here who are, who want to start a new business or who want to do a startup and who are afraid to go out there? And what would you say to them? I mean,
I would really say if before you go ahead, if just ask yourself what problem you're trying to solve, and if you're really solving a big problem, I think chances of you succeeding would be higher. And if you that would be the biggest thing, I would say. And then next thing would be, getting a team that really believes in what you do. Number two, you might have a very expert person that you can align with, a person who might have a lot of money that they can give you. But if they really don't believe in what you do, you will eventually end up changing what you develop, and that's a very bad thing, I think, and these would be
right. So just one
people
more.
with the same attitude should work.
Just one more question based on what you said. Running a startup is not easy, and usually we tend to do multiple things as well. There are days that we are really drained. And how do you actually deal with this day-to-day? I mean, I'm pretty sure you would also come across scenarios where, okay, I'm done with this. I can't do this anymore. This is too challenging.
No.
No?
No.
All right.
I don't come with that.
You're definitely different than me,
Yeah.
but that's good to hear. And I think even just to share my opinion, I tend to focus on the bigger picture, right? I mean, there are days that you have, even living in Maldives is not an easy thing. It's an extreme sport as well. But you have to, I think, sort of focus on the bigger idea there, right? Bigger picture there, right? Which could keep you going, right? So I'm pretty sure you are going that direction as well. So thank you so much, Eedham, for joining us and sharing your experience and journey of Hologo. And we will finish the fireside chat from here, but we do have a refreshment networking session upstairs. So we can go through the lift. Hisan is hinting everybody to go through the lift. So let's go upstairs, and thank you so much, Eedham. Let's give a round of applause to